got to ask, getting back to the napkin, that was straight out of the movies.
Yeah.
The movies when Coach slid the napkin with the offer.
Yeah.
So what did you do? Did you slide it back with an answer, or did you just say hell yes?
I did not slide it back, but my mom and I, we kept it together, and at the same time, I could not believe that this was happening. It was surreal because I'm a first generation college student. Like it has been my dream to play college ball. It really has, and my mom was very clear, especially coming from simple means. You're either going to go to college or you're going into the military. That was the option. It was almost like an unspoken rule. And I did not want to go to the military. I didn't have that front line fighting on the infantry like in me. I did, in much respect to, all of our armed forces. But when Bucknell and Lance Anderson in that case, was it theatrical? Was it pre-planned? I don't know. I just know that when that happened, I knew immediately, like, the prestige of the university, number one, and then the fact that my recruiting trip featured guys like George Cowan. They would come in and talk to us as players, Mark Tallman, as future players. That was, I reflect back on it, and I can see myself in that scenario. I knew when I seen that offer, things were getting ready to change in a great way.
Then Now Forever Ray explores a wide array of topics surrounding Bison athletics and the lives of Bucknellians near and far. With live interviews hosted by members of the Bucknell Athletic Department, Then Now Forever Ray highlights the university's proud tradition of excellence in the classroom, in the competitive arena, and in life after graduation.
Welcome, Bison Nation, to Season 2 of the Then Now Forever Ray podcast. It's an absolute honor and privilege to kick off Episode 1 with Todd Newcomb, our director of the Bison Club, class of 88, and our colleague in advancement and former football player, Nisan Trotter, class of 05. Nisan, how you doing?
I'm fantastic. Excited about being here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So you're kind of like the man of the month because you just took over the university's social account. Tell us a little bit about that. How was that?
Yeah, I loved the Alumni Takeover. It gave me a chance to just record a day in the life of Ray for the Orange and Blue. Yeah. Like, I have Bison, Crocs. It comes so natural. I often come to the Soika early in the morning to work out. And I don't think folks realize that there is someone here from the class of 2005 that absolutely enjoys being a Lewisburg resident and also, championing my alma mater's causes. So I absolutely love the Alumni Takeover, and I hope folks appreciated and enjoyed it as well.
That's awesome, because we come from an era kind of MySpace, Facebook back in the day, so we didn't have that as student athletes. So yeah, that's definitely something they look forward to doing.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what you have to do now. People love the fly on the wall experience, and I try to give that to them for sure.
That's awesome.
Nisan, awesome catching up with you.
Yep.
You're one of the easiest guys to talk to, so this is going to be cake for Joel and I to go through this process, but I want to take a step back, and let's talk about how you got to Bucknell. So, an Alabama guy, Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
I have to say that.
Get it out.
All right. So, an Alabama guy, how does Bucknell find Nisan Trotter in Alabama and get you to come here to Lewisburg?
That's an absolute great question. I still marvel at the history behind that. I had this huge 6'8" German coach who was our high school offensive lineman coach. And he decided to take my football highlight tapes, and he said, you do well academically here. You also play well football-wise. I'm going to send your tape off to major Northeast schools that are both good athletically and academically. Never heard of Bucknell a day in my life. And lo and behold, Bucknell comes calling. Lance Anderson, shout out to Lance Anderson, recruited me. He actually came to my high school basketball game, and I had a great game that game too, because I was a two-sport athlete, basketball, football. And I remember the exact stat line. I had 26 points, 9 assists, against Daphne High School. And I'm like, oh man, this is the perfect time to have a great game. After the game, Coach Anderson comes to our home, and I couldn't believe it was happening. It was surreal. Bucknell here in my home, didn't know much about the institution. He pops in a highlight tape, and I see Jabu Powell running all over the place. And now I'm getting a sense of, wow, there's some ballers here. Because in Alabama, if you're not playing for Auburn or Alabama, you're really not doing anything in people's opinion down there.
Yeah.
So once he finished the highlight tape, he sat my mom and myself down at our dining room table, small little dining room table. And mind you, I'm a black minority. Obviously in the hood, so to speak, and Lance Anderson is at our front door, coming into our house, doing all of this stuff, and we're just kind of sitting back, seeing what he has to offer. And after he finishes his spiel about Bucknell, he then writes on a sheet of paper what the school would be offering me to come play, and it was a need-based scholarship at the time. And he slides the paper over to my mom and I, and I look at the numbers. We had never seen numbers like this before. She looked at the numbers, and I had hoop dreams again. It was basketball in part for me, but I was lightly recruited for basketball. I think a couple of junior colleges were interested, what have you. And one place offered me like a $600 stipend, and I thought that was something to go to school there. And then I see these numbers that Bucknell has offered me, and without my mom even saying anything, it was like in the airwaves. And we're from Alabama, and my uncle called it Bucknell. She's like, "Oh, you going to Bucknell? You going to Bucknell?" And so, I mean, she was allowing me to make my decision on my own. But once I seen the highlight tape, knew that they really wanted me, seeing the offer, it was a no-brainer after that I was coming up north.
So,
yeah,
opens the door for your relationship with Coach Gadd. Tell us about Coach Gadd.
Yeah, Coach Gadd, I vividly remember on my recruiting trip when he was standing in the hallway, the look that he gave me was one that inspired me, because it was like he was speaking to me without talking. We believe in you, we accept you here, and we want you to do great things. And so I always had in my mind from not just my recruiting coach, Lance Anderson, but also the late, great Coach Tom Gadd, that they took a chance on me, and I'm going to give it absolutely everything that I can. He was mesmerizing with his presence. It was mystical in a sense, the way he talked, how he carried himself, how he believed in us as athletes. I just wanted to show up and show out for him, because I knew they were taking a risk on me and giving me a scholarship to play ball here. So, love him. His beautiful wife that survived him, Mrs. Carroll. It's just, I believe, an amazing family. I also was around when his son also coached on the team as well, and love the entire family.
So let's stay on that for a minute, because we just went through One Herd One Day,
Right.
and a very successful One Herd One Day, thanks to the contributions of so many donors out there. But a big part of the success was the football program. They set a record. I want to say they raised close to $180,000.
Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. And every donation counts. We don't just say that. We truly mean that. You had your higher level, you had some match and challenge gifts, but then you also had those who contributed to something that you helped jumpstart. And that was a pool of guys who came together in memory of Coach Gadd. So, I mean, you just hit on what he means to you, what the family means to you. What did it mean to you to kind of step outside of your role at Bucknell a little bit and kind of put on your alumni hat to lead the charge with that, with some former teammates?
Yeah, first off, I couldn't believe the response. But then again, I could, because it's Coach Gadd. He was a winning football coach here, but also was a player's coach player in a sense, that he just bonded really well with the guys. So I knew, in just mentioning him, a number of the guys would step up to the plate and want to give for One Herd One Day. I was happy to see how it trickled and over to multiple players who were absolutely fond of Coach Gadd and their time with him here. And so I was just elated at the response. It just meant the world to me. It went to a place that I couldn't imagine, number one, again, but also when I received a letter in the mail from Mrs. Carroll on the support and her knowing that many people chipped in honor of Coach Gadd, that took it over the top for me. I still have that letter that she wrote, and I'm going to put it in my office, hanging in my office as a reminder that it's all about doing that type of work here.
Absolutely.
I want to really, thank you personally for that, Nisan, because I think it was Mike Angelosi, right?
Yeah,
And
Mike
yourself.
Angelosi.
And,
Shout out to Mike.
it was an idea that we all should have come up with, but you guys did.
Yep.
And then we just ran with it. And as you said, we had guys that were committing gifts to that didn't play for Coach Gadd, that just knew the kind of person he was. And as you said, as soon as his name was mentioned, boom, they're willing to contribute. Talk a little bit about how hard that was when in Coach's later years, like how he got sick and how you guys had to deal with that as players, and then maybe a little bit about how Coach Gadd would reach out to the alums, what he did with that. So I know that was unique.
Absolutely. So toward maybe the back end of my freshman year into my sophomore year, Coach Gadd's health drastically took a turn for the worse, and we would see him struggle with that, but yet and still make a commitment to the football team by showing up to practices. Other coaches would rally in to help him in his effort as best they could. But I mean, this is a historic story from the standpoint of Coach Gadd not being well, still being on the sideline, calling people, reaching out to fellow alumni now. But I was a student athlete, but reaching out to alumni and talking about the program, getting them to be invested in the program and give back. So it just showed the level of care, concern, and compassion he had for Bison football.
Yeah, I remember, Joel, I don't know if you know this story, but as Nisan said, when Coach was so sick, he had a hard time dialing the phone. And he would go every night in that trailer. We were doing construction on the building over here, so football had a trailer outside the stadium. And Coach would go in there, and I would go in there with him, and he would say, all right, we're talking to this person. We would dial up that number. And as sick as he was, and as probably as terrible as he was feeling, he was so committed to that program.
Right.
So definitely be missed.
Did that rub off on you a little bit now that you look back at it? I know we'll get a little bit more into how you got into development and whatnot, but did seeing Coach do that outreach, did that inspire you in any way to eventually get into development work?
I would say it inspires me now. At that period in time in my life, I didn't know much about what development was all about. I knew that he was reaching out. I knew that he had a whole lot of care for the program just because he's feeble and he's still trying to coach. Yeah. But in terms of development work, the interesting story behind me being involved in that is Josh Grill, a fellow colleague of ours. He must have been in development when he was like 15 years old here at Bucknell, because he met me as a student athlete, and we're not that much older than each other. Yeah. But someone, he got my name from someone, Bob Gaines actually, and Bob told him, Josh, you should meet this kid, because that's exactly what I was as a kid. You should meet this kid. He's charismatic. I think he would be great in development one day. It was really nothing more than that. I met Josh. We exchanged pleasantries, and then at some point, once I finished here, I delved into investments. Took the typical Bucknellian route as a management major, economics minor. Yep. Went into investments. And then, thankfully, one of the best things that happened to me as a financial advisor was I got fired. And thank God for closed doors, because that was a calling I was unfit for. And so once that took place, there was a position in development that opened up, and I believe it was God at work, and I applied for the position, and the rest is all she wrote, so to speak. Yeah.
I didn't know that background.
Mhm.
That's a great background. So let's talk about, so you come to Bucknell.
Right.
You have a pretty darn good career as a wide receiver for the
Thank you.
Bison. 3-year letter winner, won multiple awards, did outstanding in terms of, where you ranked among the conference leaders.
Right.
You graduate.
Yeah.
What happens then in Nisan's life?
Yeah, well, I was wanting to sort of see if I could take this thing semi-pro, if I could. And I remember, practicing my reps for the 225 bench press, working on my 40. Jerome AC at the time was a cornerback. We had many battles, and he had. I vividly remember this old school looking how to run the 40 as fast as you can type of video and tape. And so my goal was to see what I could do with this. And I am from the tree of Coach Fossil. I always John or Jim, one or the other. We call him Bones.
Yeah.
In the league now, and he actually was one of my coaches. And so I sent off my Bucknell highlight tape with my numbers. At the time, he was an assistant coach for the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay.
And so, to make a long story short, never really heard back from him. I harbor no hard feelings. But I started to see that window close. But because I had investment experience as an intern in Pensacola, Florida, I took that route to jump into investments before I came to Bucknell. So that was, I dabbled with wanting to go pro. It didn't seem like it was working, and then I immediately went into becoming a pro in something else. Yeah.
Family, kids?
Absolutely. I'm 3 rambunctious boys who give me a run
All
for my
future
money.
Bison?
Hopefully.
There you go.
Absolutely. I'm working on my older son right now. He was attend Alabama. But my middle son bleeds Orange and Blue, a part of the Bison Club, the Kids Bison Club as well. That's giving me a run for my money as a father, also married to a lovely wife, Jarellis, who I met on campus here. I'm telling you, my Bucknell roots go deep.
You bleed orange.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I do. We met on the quads, and we became friends on the quads, and then, now 15 years later, still together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to just go back a little bit again, talking about, so you won the team's most inspirational award in 2004.
Mm-hmm.
For anyone who knows you, you can tell why. You bring that same energy to our advancement team as well. But what I want to hit on is you went from being Scout Team Player of the Year, and I'm not knocking on that, because that takes an incredible amount of work, obviously, to earn that title, to winning the Big Blue Award for the top receiver back on the team. Who do you credit that development to? Is it your hard work? Is it Coach Gadd? Is it a combination of just the development that was happening within the program?
Yeah, I credit that work number one to God. I'm extremely faithful. Couldn't have done anything without His power working through me. And then in conjunction with that too, Reed Tunison, which was a cornerback, all Patriot League at the time. When I was a freshman here, I would battle against him as a freshman. He was, I believe, a senior or a junior at the time. And this is why I wore the number 4, because he gave it to me almost as a rite of passage. I accept you because you took my beatings. But that development of going against the starters prepared me for the years to come when I was a freshman. I actually thought Scout Team Player of the Year was not the award to be the most proud of. I didn't even know that award existed until I'm sitting in the award banquet and they call my name, and I was a bit ashamed of it, to be honest with you, at first. But as I began to think about it, I thought, wow, they seen my talent in terms of preparing the starters, and eventually now, reflecting on that, winning the awards that I won as a senior, it was because of being able to compete against the best that we had on our team.
Now, just to piggyback on that, working out in the summer, I know we were talking a little bit before the show about, you were a diehard, going all out in the summer, and you have a great story about that. For those who don't know, Coach Cicchini is launching a program to sponsor a student athlete because he's finally going to have 80 guys back in July. Maybe tell us a little bit about your experience when you were working out back here in the summers and how you feel this program's going to benefit the program overall.
Absolutely. I mean, we really wanted to win a Patriot League championship, and we were really close. And people will hear that and think whatever, but it's a true story. I have to share this brief story because this is how close we were. We were playing against Lafayette, and I think about this play all the time. It was our final drive, and I had 3 catches on that drive too. We were down. You remember that? I remember. And we got in field goal range. We were down by, I believe it was a point, and we set up for the field goal, and the field goal gets blocked.
It wasn't a very far field goal, if I remember.
Yeah, we were in position. Yes. Come on, Todd. You know I'm telling the truth.
I was standing right there.
Yes, my
Hayden's being to hear this again.
I believe it.
So the kick gets blocked, and our kicker had the presence of mind to actually scoop up the blocked field goal, and he scampers all the way to the 1 yard line. It was about a 20-yard run he had, or less, and he got tackled on the 1 yard line. Had we won that game, many of us, and from the class of 2005 and younger, would be wearing Patriot League championship rings.
Oh, so close.
And the reason why we were competing at that level as a 7-4 squad is because a number of the guys committed to, we're going to stay up for the summer. No matter how hard it is. Shout out to people like Virgil Rush, Darius Wilson, and forgive me for the other guys I might be forgetting. It wasn't many of us. We decided to stay up for the summer. It was hard staying up here for the summer because you had to have a job. You had to get a job to basically fund your summer experience here. And I chose, I think wisely, to partner with the CAF because they will give you 1 free meal each day. And so I chose breakfast as my meal, and I would then take care of my lunch and my dinner. And so with the money that I made from the CAF, I bought a whole bunch of frozen dinners. It was not the most healthy meal. We stayed in Hunt Hall, and I packed up the freezer with my frozen dinners. I know exactly which lineman on the team. I'm not going to call them out. I go to get my frozen dinners, and all of them are gone. I know who took them out. But that was the perils, if you will, of trying to stay here over the summer, is trying to actually feed yourself while also competing and being at your best, because you knew other Patriot League squads were probably doing the same thing. It paid off for a number of us who stayed. I had a breakout season because of that, but it was challenging to be up here over the summer.
It's going to be an absolute game changer, the program that Chick's kicking off.
There's no question. I mean, for us to potentially have 80 young men here this summer can make or break the season, and the other schools in the league have been doing it, some of them for quite some time now, and it's time that we get on that and really get our guys going.
Absolutely. When I hear 80 guys staying up, I just think about the competitive advantage that they will have over those who do not make that commitment over the summer. I mean, Coach Gadd was notorious for his conditioning test. Yeah. And there would be guys who would come into camp not in shape because of whatever it was. Yeah. It's harder to take it off when you have your peers cranking it out. And so I'm super grateful and delighted to hear that this program is in place and that 80 athletes. I think we might have had 10 to 15 during my time who stayed up over the summer, but 80, that's gonna be incredible.
Absolutely. Yeah. I gotta ask, getting back to the napkin, that was straight out of the movies. The movies when Coach slid the napkin with the arm. Yeah. So what did you do? Did you slide it back with an answer, or did you just say hell yes?
I did not slide it back, but my mom and I, we kept it together, and at the same time I could not believe that this was happening. It was surreal because I'm a first generation college student. Like this was it has been my dream to play college ball. It really has. And my mom was very clear, especially coming from simple means. You're either going to go to college or you're going into the military. That was the option. It was almost like an unspoken rule. And I did not want to go to the military. I didn't have that front line fighting on the infantry like in me. I did, and much respect to, all of our armed forces. But when Bucknell and Lance Anderson in that case, was it theatrical? Was it pre-planned? I don't know. I just know that when that happened, I knew immediately, like, the prestige of the university, number one, and then the fact that my recruiting trip featured guys like George Cowan. They would come in and talk to us as players, Mark Tallman, as future players. That was, I reflect back on it, and I can see myself in that scenario. I knew when I seen that offer, things were getting ready to change in a great way.
First of all, props to Coach Anderson.
Yeah.
I mean, when you told me that story with the napkin, I don't know if ever coaches are doing that these days. But that's awesome. He's gone on to have quite the career, coaching himself. But now you're here in a kind of a different role around the team. What does it mean to you to be able to interact with these guys on a daily basis, and what kinds of things do you do with the team right now to stay attached to Bison football?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I still love Bison football. I still feel it if the scoreboard doesn't look in our favor. Like, that's still how I very much feel. Sometimes I think to myself, I don't know if I'm a downfield threat anymore, but I believe I can move the chains. You know what I mean? If you need a possession, I can get it done for you still. So
we can find some shoulder pads for you.
I might take you up on that, but my connection to the team now, thankfully, the coaching staff allows me to come in and speak to the guys on Saturday, filling in as a motivational sort of chaplain role, if you will. And so we meet in the LC pregame, and I give them, and it's more than a pep talk. It's also football strategy and life strategy. So that's a part of it. My kids still love Bison football. Like, you ought to see my little one wear my helmet from when I played. It's the cutest thing ever. Yeah, his head is not big enough quite. His body isn't either, so he kind of topples over, my youngest. But I bring them to the sideline for the spring practices. We attend the spring games. We try to take part. And also I try to meet the guys personally and let them know that there's somebody here who knows what it feels like, you know what I mean, to be a student athlete here, and I want nothing but the best for them. If they ever need me, please don't hesitate to reach out.
I think that's one of the things you touched on, the interaction, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things our coaches over the years have done fairly well, and Coach Cicchini now has done a good job of getting our players out into the community and attaching a face to that jersey number, because when the helmet's on, you can't really see the face.
Right.
But when they're out there, whether it's marching in our parade or going out for the first responders and visiting firehouses and those types of things, it creates that bond, and I wish, and I'm curious how you feel about this, I wish more of our current players would come back, on a more frequent basis. And when they do come back, I wish they would talk to our current guys.
Absolutely.
Right? Because they can give them so much guidance and direction, and I think that's something we really need to, as Bucknell football family, we need to continue to work on.
No question, and I believe in doing that, Todd. It's showing that the program still matters, not just in terms of the awesome things occurring. With one of the recruiting tools that was used at the time was for class of 05 and possibly younger, was the field turf being laid down. And we would call it the $1 million field. I can hear Will Smith right now, a teammate of mine. Oh, we playing on the $1 million field today. It's the $1 million field, baby. And he's from Mississippi, and so it would get you up, ready to go. Yeah. Now you got the Pascusi Team Center coming up. You have this huge scoreboard that changes the in-game experience. All that is great. You have the new field turf on the side of 15, that was at one point our practice field that sometimes wasn't the best. It had holes in it, stuff like that. But that still doesn't, I think, compare to even the relationship that guys can have with current players to show, hey, we're watching you on ESPN Plus now. we're paying attention to your stats. We know that we're on the rise of doing something good, and that encouragement, I think, can push the program forward all the more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many ways to get involved. We have the golf tournament on Friday, July 14th. We have the football alumni weekend in September when we host. That's for the VMI game.
Correct.
So certainly a number of ways to get involved. But Nisan, we can't thank you enough for being on.
Sure.
You're such a great representative of Bucknell and Bison football, both in your role in advancement and everything you do for the team. So we really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. I want to celebrate you all for what you're doing with the podcast. It's a tremendous blessing for me to be on it. I wouldn't even imagine that from a freshman coming from Alabama to now being able to share my experience of being a student athlete at Bucknell almost 20 years later, that I'd be on the Bucknell Bison Athletics podcast. So I'm extremely grateful, and I wish y'all nothing but the best. Keep it up.